If someone had asked me a year ago to describe my life, I would have smiled and told them it was simple, steady, and happy. The kind of quiet happiness that doesn't need grand gestures or perfect photos for social media. I had a husband, Daniel, who I believed was my safe place. We'd been married for almost 8 years, and though we weren't the most romantic couple in the world, I thought we were solid. I thought I knew him. And then there was Olivia. My best friend, my anchor through every stage of adulthood. We met in college, clung to each other through bad breakups, job searches, and messy family drama. Our husbands even became friends, which felt like the perfect bonus. Her husband, Matt, was always kind and easygoing, the kind of man who never raised his voice and always offered to pour your coffee before his own. I thought I was surrounded by good people. It's funny how ordinary moments can become turning points. Started on a Wednesday, just another normal day. Daniel had been working later than usual for weeks, which wasn't unusual. He often picked up extra shifts at the architecture firm when projects piled up. I never questioned it. But something small, almost meaningless, stuck with me that evening. His phone. Daniel had always been careless about his phone. It would lie on the kitchen counter or the coffee table, unlocked, buzzing with harmless notifications. But lately it was different. I noticed him keeping it face down, sometimes sliding it into his pocket even when he wasn't going anywhere. That night, while he was in the shower, I was tidying the bedroom. His phone, forgotten on the nightstand, lit up. Normally, I wouldn't have given it a second glance. But the message preview wasn't from a coworker or a random spam text. It was from an unsaved number. The words were short, but enough to freeze me in place. Asterisk, thinking about last night. I can't stop smiling. Asterisk. I remember standing there, holding a pair of his socks, unable to move, my mind trying to explain it away. Maybe it was a client. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe, and this was the worst lie I told myself, maybe it wasn't even his message. But the seed of doubt had already been planted. I didn't confront him that night. Couldn't. I lay awake next to him, the words from that text spinning around in my head, making me question every touch, every "I love you." Every late night he said was spent at the office. The next day, I tried to push the thought aside, bury myself in errands and work. But the weight of that message sat heavy on my chest, refusing to be ignored. And as the days passed, little cracks I'd once overlooked began to widen. The way Daniel avoided eye contact when I asked about his day. The unfamiliar cologne on his shirt one evening. The sudden interest in working out, eating healthier, dressing sharper. And the more I noticed, the less I could breathe. I wasn't ready for the truth. But I could feel it approaching like a storm, and deep down, I knew it wouldn't be long before everything came crashing down. Days passed, but the unease didn't. If anything, it grew heavier, like a shadow that stretched across every part of my life. I couldn't stop replaying that single message in my mind, dissecting it word by word, searching for meaning where there was none left to soften the truth. Daniel had always been calm, predictable, even a little boring in the best way. But now his behavior felt off, like an actor slipping out of character. He was home less, distant when he was around, quick to shut down conversations with a tight-lipped smile that I'd never seen before. I kept trying to catch him, not physically but in a lie. I started asking small, harmless questions about his day, about work, about lunch, about who he'd seen. Each answer felt too neat, too rehearsed. It was as if he'd practiced the script in advance. One evening, after an especially quiet dinner where we barely exchanged 10 words, I couldn't hold it in any longer. The silence between us had grown suffocating. We were in the kitchen, rinsing plates, standing side by side like strangers. I put my dish down and said it softly, almost afraid of my own voice. Asterisk, Daniel. Is there someone else? Asterisk. The question seemed to echo in the room. His hands froze under the running water, and for a long, tense second, he didn't turn to look at me. When he finally did, his face wore a carefully constructed expression of confusion. Too practiced, too slow. Asterisk, what are you talking about? Asterisk, he asked, chuckling under his breath, as if I'd just accused him of stealing office supplies, not cheating on his wife. But I didn't back down. I told him I'd seen the message. I expected anger or regret or even an apology, but instead he acted offended, defensive, accused me of snooping, accused me of imagining things. Asterisk, you're overthinking, Emma. You always do this when you get stressed. Asterisk, he said, shaking his head like I was the one unraveling. For a brief, shameful moment, I almost believed him. I wanted to believe him. I wanted the world to return to the simple, safe version I'd known before that text message. But the distance in his voice, the ease with which the lie rolled off his tongue, it confirmed what I already knew. He wasn't just hiding something. He was protecting it. That night, I lay awake again, watching him sleep beside me. His breathing was steady, peaceful, untouched by guilt or grief. Mine wasn't. I could feel the crack widening between us, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth would find its way out. And somehow, deep in my gut, I also knew this wasn't the kind of affair I had been imagining. There was something else, something worse. The days after that confrontation felt like walking through fog. Daniel's denials still echoed in my head, but so did my instincts, and for the first time in my life, I trusted them more than his words. I started noticing the little things I'd always brushed aside. The way he would step out to take calls, the faint scent of unfamiliar cologne clinging to his clothes, the text messages he suddenly deleted, leaving only suspicious gaps behind. And then there was Olivia. She noticed something was off with me long before I said a word. One afternoon, as we sat in the corner booth of the cafe we'd been going to for years, she reached across the table and gently touched my hand. Asterisk. Emma, you've been somewhere else these past few weeks. Talk to me. Asterisk. I wanted to tell her everything right then and there. About the message, the confrontation, the heavy suspicion sitting on my chest. But the words wouldn't come. She was my safe place, my oldest friend, the person I'd always leaned on. I wasn't ready to put the cracks in my marriage on display, even for her. Instead, I smiled and lied. Just like Daniel had lied to me. Just work stress, I said. Asterisk, it'll pass. Asterisk. But the universe has a cruel sense of timing. A few nights later, I was home alone, scrolling mindlessly through photos on my phone, a habit I'd picked up to distract myself. As I flipped past pictures of dinners, birthdays, and backyard barbecues, something strange tugged at me. In almost every group photo, Daniel and Matt, Olivia's husband, were close. Not just standing next to each other, but always sharing glances, inside jokes, and looks I'd never paid attention to before. The realization was subtle at first, like an itch at the back of my mind. But once I noticed it, I couldn't unsee it. A pit formed in my stomach as memories flooded back. The way Daniel always seemed eager to invite Matt over, even when I wasn't around. The nights Daniel would casually mention grabbing drinks with him after work, the weekends he spent helping Matt with his car, hours unaccounted for, written off without question. A part of me still clung to hope, desperate to believe I was wrong. But the final piece of the puzzle came in the most ordinary way. I was cleaning the living room when Daniel's laptop pinged, a calendar reminder, bright and plain on the screen. A recurring meeting every Thursday night, labeled only with the initials MW. My breath caught. MW. Matt Wilson. I felt the blood drain from my face. I don't remember how long I sat there staring at the screen, but when Daniel walked through the door later that evening, I couldn't even look at him. The truth wasn't just some faceless stranger anymore. It had a name. A face I'd known for years. My husband wasn't cheating with a stranger. He was cheating with Matt. My best friend's husband. I had always thought betrayal would feel like a clean, sharp cut. But this was different. This was slow, suffocating, like drowning in plain sight. And the worst part, I still had to find the strength to tell Olivia. I always thought that when your heart breaks, it would happen all at once, like glass shattering. But the truth is, it happens in pieces. Quietly, slowly. Every moment after the discovery chipped away at me, until there wasn't much left of the woman I had been before. For days I went through the motions, making coffee, going to work, folding laundry, all while carrying this unbearable secret. Daniel acted like nothing had changed. He still left early, still came home late, still kissed me on the cheek like a husband who loved his wife. But I couldn't pretend. Not anymore. I knew I had to tell Olivia. I rehearsed the conversation in my head 100 times, but none of the versions seemed right. How do you look your best friend in the eye and shatter her world? How do you tell her that the man she trusted, the man she built her life with, wasn't just unfaithful, but that his betrayal had been hiding in plain sight, right alongside yours? It wasn't courage that finally pushed me to do it. It was necessity. I couldn't carry the weight alone any longer. I invited her over one Saturday afternoon, under the guise of needing to talk about something important. I remember the way she walked in, cheerful, holding a bottle of wine, assuming we'd spend the evening the way we always did, talking about work, life, or venting about the small frustrations of marriage. I almost wished I could freeze that moment, keep her safe from what was coming, but there was no easy way to say it. Olivia. I started, my throat dry. I need to tell you something. And I don't know how. Her smile faltered, concern flashing across her face. You're scaring me, Em. What's going on? And so I told her. Everything. The text message, the calendar reminders, the nights Daniel had lied. The quiet patterns that had fallen into place like puzzle pieces until the picture became unmistakable. At first she didn't speak. She just sat there, her face pale, her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles turned white. I could see the denial flicker in her eyes, the same one I'd clung to not so long ago. When she finally spoke, her voice wasn't angry, just hollow. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? And I nodded, tears burning at the corners of my eyes. I wished I could be wrong. God, I wished I could take it back. The hours after that were a blur. Olivia left in silence. She didn't cry, not in front of me. She didn't shout or accuse me of lying. The betrayal had hit her so hard it hadn't even found its way to tears yet. Daniel came home later that night, and I didn't ask him where he'd been. I didn't need to. The gap between us had become an ocean. The days that followed were some of the loneliest I've ever known. Olivia stopped answering my calls. Matt didn't come around anymore. And Daniel acted like the world was still spinning the same way it always had. The truth had detonated like a bomb, but he moved through the wreckage as if it wasn't his doing. We both knew there was no fixing this. Some wounds go too deep for apologies, and some marriages are over long before either person admits it out loud. The only question left was how to let go. Of him, of the life we'd built, of the future I thought we were promised. And I wasn't sure I was ready. But I knew I had to be. The house felt different after everything came to light. Not quieter, just empty. Even when Daniel was home, the silence between us wasn't the kind that brought peace. It was the kind that suffocated. We still lived under the same roof for a while, as if we were strangers wearing the same last name. But one morning, as I stood by the kitchen window watching the sun rise, I realized something simple but undeniable. I wasn't waiting for him to apologize anymore. I wasn't waiting for him to explain or justify or even confess. I was done waiting for someone else to give me permission to let go. The day Daniel packed his things, there were no dramatic goodbyes. No slammed doors or shouted words. He just left, like it was the most natural ending to a story we both already knew had reached its final page. Watching him walk away wasn't easy, but it wasn't heartbreaking either. The heartbreak had come long before. This was just the quiet after the storm. Olivia, on the other hand, needed more time. Weeks passed before she returned any of my calls. When she finally did, her voice was steadier than I expected, but the ache underneath was impossible to miss. We met at that same cafe, the one where I'd once lied to her about work stress. This time there were no lies, no wine, just two women sitting across from each other, each carrying their own version of the same grief. I don't know how to forgive them, she whispered at one point, staring into her coffee. I don't know if I can. Asterisk. I nodded because I understood. The truth was, I didn't know either. Some betrayals don't come with neat endings or tidy lessons. They leave scars. But that doesn't mean you have to carry the weight forever. In the months that followed, I learned a lot about starting over. I learned that forgiveness isn't always about the person who hurt you. Sometimes it's about freeing yourself from the hold they have over your heart. I learned that grief and love can exist side by side, and that the end of a marriage isn't the end of you. And most of all, I learned that you never really know what's going on behind the closed doors of someone else's life. Not even the people you trust most. But that doesn't mean you stop trusting. Just means you choose more carefully next time. To anyone out there living through the same heartbreak, feeling blindsided by betrayal, it won't break you, even if it feels like it right now. You will stand back up. You will breathe again. You will be whole again. I'm living proof.